I think you're absolutely right about that. I think there are big questions for our industry to answer around sustainability that still haven't been solved. I remember coming to the show Rouleur 3 years ago. Every brand talked about sustainability. And now, this year, I've not seen one brand talk about it. But I think Gen Alpha is specifically interested in that. They are concerned. It's in what informs their purchasing decisions. And I honestly think that's going to be quite a difficult challenge for this industry to get over, which is an irony, given that we provide an alternative to petrochemicals and more negative and environmentally impactful modes of transport. So I think that's going to be a big challenge for us. I also think there's still supply chain. I think there's an issue around supply chain and the COVID whiplash, which I'm sure everyone's observed, but there still is an issue.
Welcome to Ride Success, the podcast that takes you on a learning journey to a productive, creative, and active life through the power of the bike. In the podcast, I explore cycling's global trends, community needs, innovative business strategies, and the journeys of remarkable individuals in the world of cycling. You are listening to a limited series of recordings during Rouleur Live 2024. This limited series has 11 episodes, and in each episode, the guests are asked 4 key questions. Each of my guests has different insights into where the opportunities for success in the cycling industry lie. So make sure you to subscribe and follow so you'll get notified of new podcasts because they will be released in quick succession. In this episode, I interview James Vickers, a marketing professional with over a decade of experience and a self-confessed AI evangelist. It discusses the importance of authenticity in cycling marketing, the evolution of sports sponsorship, and the challenges and opportunities facing the cycling industry. Now, back to the episode.
Hi, my name's James Vickers. I'm an experienced endurance sports marketeer with about 15 years experience.
James, thanks for taking the time to speak with me. Let's get straight to the questions. Where should cycling companies prioritize their spending when aiming to drive brand visibility and engagement?
I think there's a long and a short answer to this. Let's
hear it for both.
I think the short answer is creating authenticity in their communities. But I think the longer answer is how you do both of those things. So I think developing authentic stories, carving yourself out as your individual category or your category of one, avoiding the constant fallback into the hero position and trying to create what's already been done. To create your authenticity, I think you just need to be genuine in what it is that you can achieve and recognize that. And the second part, engagement, I think you need to find platforms that enable you to create a really positive connection with your audience. And I think that's essential. And I think that's where the money should be going for brands wanting to drive brand awareness right now.
Very good. So with that in mind, I mean, you of all people are very aware of this. How is the rise of content creator economy transforming the traditional cycling sponsorship model, and how are brands adapting to the new media?
It's insane how much it's changed. So in the 15 years I've worked in endurance sports marketing, I think back to the early days where you sponsored performance or you sponsored celebrity. So you would find a newsreader that would use your product, for example, or you would find a professional athlete that would provide you with the outcomes, the race results to validate your place in the sport. I think now that the field has changed, as you've observed, it's massive. The way in which content creators enable you to connect with your audience, it validates the product, it validates your brand in a completely different way. We've just talked about how it's changed. I always think back to learning around sports sponsorship, and you have the traditional sports sponsorship triangle of formats, investment, and media. And you raise the investment in one of those three in a particular sport, and it brings everything else with it. And I think that's changed entirely. I think the old sports sponsorship triangle is evolved to include ambassadors and influencers in that space. I think more money is going into that area. And I think that with products like Avalon, it's easier to track outcomes than it ever was before.
Yeah. Very good. I mean, you mentioned Avalon, and that's so totally tailored to the content creator economy. I wanted to now shift slightly to a more macro level. Where do you think are the tailwinds and the headwinds of the cycling that the cycling industry is facing and is going to face in the next 5 years?
I think it's macro. I think you're absolutely right about that. I think there are big questions for our industry to answer around sustainability that still haven't been solved. I remember coming to the show Rouleur 3 years ago. Every brand talked about sustainability. And now, this year, I've not seen one brand talk about it. But I think I think Gen Alpha is specifically interested in that. They are concerned it's in what informs their purchasing decisions. And I honestly think that's going to be quite a difficult challenge for this industry to get over, which is an irony, given that we provide an alternative to petrochemicals and more negative and environmentally impactful modes of transport. So I think that's going to be a big challenge for us. I also think there's still supply chain. I think there's an issue around supply chain and the COVID whiplash, which I'm sure everyone's observed, but there still is an issue there. And I also think the balance between investment in product and brand and carving yourself out as that individual, unique entity within a category, balancing that investment against the cost of what you're charging your consumers for your product. Because you can keep going and you can keep spending and you can create something that is incredibly technical, but then the question still remains as to whether or not it becomes cost effective and it's possible for your end user to actually afford it.
Very good. I mean, yeah, the sustainability is really, it's such a paradox that the working in the cycling industry is right there for us to take. But then it's looking at the production line, looking at how things are sourced, and now we talk about it. There's really a distinction and the divide there that is not being bridged.
I don't get it. I mean, Gen Alpha, their purchasing decisions are informed by these problems that they want to see us solve. And Gen Alpha is our user of the future. I also think while we're talking about that generational thing, like category support, like the support for categories, like road cycling as a sport, mountain biking as a sport, in the UK, it's just not there. And I think that race to the bottom, that constant investment in ambassadors and proven retail streams, for example, and not investment in the category. So there's no money going into road racing. We've seen the road racing decimated. Local clubs are underfunded. It's very difficult to see what happens next for this. And if you look at what happened with mountain biking and Mike Signard and Specialized, and they built the trails and they were out every day creating this category. And there are other sports where the category is developed. The money goes into the category. If you look at FIFA and the trickle-down effect of where the funds go, our sport has none of that. British Cycling do the best job that they can, but actually it's down to us as brands to start thinking about how we develop and grow those categories to give us a future. Otherwise, who knows? The way that cycling goes right now, it's retracting as particularly in the UK, it's retracting as a market. Yeah. We need to develop that category. It's a big challenge for us. And in terms of tailwinds, I think all of those things that you recognize as challenge, there's a massive opportunity in. I think it's essential that we reflect on, as a industrial community, we reflect on what potential exists and we activate them. We do what we can to build the category. For me, that's what I think, where I think the real opportunity lies in building the category again. How that looks, I mean, from a task or a tactical basis, what tactics we would do we haven't got time, but I think that's really important. And also, I think as AI continues to adapt and disrupt, I think that will enable product designers to test and iterate very quickly. It will enable us as marketeers to produce content in a more radical and quick way, and then that leaves us to do the bits that we're good at. So that carves off all the admin and the difficult stuff, and it leaves us to do the cool stuff and the bits that we're good at. And I think there's a real opportunity in that regard to attract new talent to cycling, because it's no longer about the difficult stuff or the email treadmill that every brand goes through. We've got to get an email out this week. What content? AI can take care of that. We can start to have more meaningful conversations about testing bikes and what marketing messages we can actually put in and stuff like that. So that's my sense, at least. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of truth to what you said as well. I wanted to kind of now take you on a more personal level to ask you, because you have been in the industry for over a decade. What is the one thing that you do every day that enables you to perform at your best?
Ride my bike. I honestly think that there are two things.
Just ride bike.
There are two things, I think, and one of them gives me the mental space and capacity that I need to perform, and that's ride my bike. I ride as often as I possibly can. I'm able to establish quite a good balance, even with a young son. My wife's quite supportive, so I ride almost daily. And I think that really helps me with that mental space to then perform in the professional space. And I think that's one thing. And the second thing, we've touched on it already, is AI. So for me now, AI has become core of what I do on a personal level and on a professional level. So we go on holiday to Holland. I tell ChatGPT where I'm going, who my family are, and ask it to create an itinerary. Local events, when are you going to go? Get those details in. It tells you what events you can go to, what time limited events are that are going to end, what would be interesting, gives you your excursions, the petrol stations. It can do everything. So it can really free up time to do other things that you can enjoy. And then on a professional level, we talked about the radical speed in which content can now be produced. The fact that it won't be long before video and image is meaningful and starts to have the ability to reduce your carbon footprint. You don't need to fly all your video equipment around the world and sustainability. Anyway, I think AI is another area that really helps me now to focus on the right stuff because I don't need to really focus on writing that email. AI does it for me. AI agents and
AI is, I completely relate to that. AI is the future and riding bikes.
Riding bikes. AI and riding bikes, right? That's all we need to do.
Brilliant. I started a tradition in the podcast where every guest leaves a question to my next guest, not knowing who they are. So the question that was left for you is the following, and I mean this is quite apt to you. Is there the concept of too much data in your life? How much data do you need in your life presently?
I'm a believer in custom experiences, augmented experiences, and without the data, those things aren't possible. So I don't want to get an email tomorrow selling me an enduro mountain bike because I'm not interested in that. So I will give up my data to have a better experience and receive emails that sell me a gravel bike or that sell me a road bike. In terms of performance in cycling, it's providing athletes with the ability to go faster than ever before. Having said that, it's sterilizing the racing slightly because everyone's staring at pound liters. But still, I don't think that we're at a point where data is becoming a problem. I do think that privacy and control of data is an issue, particularly with the advent of disruptive technologies and what can be done with that data. So I think that ethics and morality play a big part in this question about data. But actually, if we do it properly as marketeers, as an industry, on a macro level as humanity, then I'm all for it. I'm all for using data to create better individual experiences for people. And I think there's only an upside from because the alternative is much less appealing.
Yeah, I mean, and AI will help with that and is already doing it.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing your insights, James.
No, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Would you like to leave a question to my next guest?
I would, and it won't surprise you to hear what it is. So we've talked about AI. It's a theme at the moment. I spent the last 4 weeks really immersing myself in this subject, learning how to build apps with natural language. And that means I say to a program, create an app that does this, and it goes away and it writes the code and it's there. And I can share an example of that with you. It's amazing. I have an app now that's built and all I did was talk to it. I didn't write a single line of code and it's deployed and it works. So my question is, with the rate of change of AI, the concept of machines that have IQs that are far superior to our own, that can create content that are better than we could ever dream of producing right now, how are you preparing for what is a very disruptive future as a professional within the cycling industry?
That's a very great question. Very topical and really makes you think about the future.
I could talk about AI for a week.
Brilliant, James. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this quick interview. I'm your host, Pedro Couto Lopez. You can find me under my own name on LinkedIn. You can find Ride to Success on all socials. And let me know if you like this format of shorter, snappier interviews with guests within the cycling industry. And if you like the show, please give us a review, a follow, helps us to create better content and bring more guests to the podcast. Make sure you tune in to the next episode, which will be released shortly. Thank you for listening.